listening to an audio article by the Common Constitutionalist. Today's audio article is entitled, Conservatives May Hate Me, but... We on the right have grown increasingly frustrated with the process of defending President Trump against the onslaught of cheaters and thieves that have all but stolen this election out from under him. He didn't deserve any of this, but still, here we are. Now I know that it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and if you're offended by that, tough crap. But we see and hear all this evidence being compiled on the president's behalf, and instead of promised bombshells, we are just left waiting at the altar, so to speak. We see the kabuki theater starring Rudy Giuliani and his staff, not in courtrooms or government chambers, but in various hotel ballrooms. There is Trump's Department of Justice, headed by The Rock, William Barr, and his enforcer, John Bull Durham, who came out and said there is no evidence of voter fraud to the extent that it would overturn the election results. Well, I don't want to get into it, but let me just say to AG Barr and all, you have to actually investigate to make that determination, but it appears as you've done jack squat. And by saying that you haven't found enough voter fraud, it implies that there is some. So what you should be compelled to do as the top cop of the United States is to start turning over rocks. Investigate the fraud you are aware of and see where it leads. You just might be surprised at how deep the rabbit hole goes, but this assumes you have any interest in doing so. Now, I don't want anyone killing the messenger, but I'm about to blame someone for this that I never thought I would. I blame President Donald Trump for at least some of this. And allow me to explain before you write me off completely. I don't blame Trump for the evil Democrats, the BLM or Antifa movements. I don't blame him for the riots and criminal behavior of the left. I don't blame him for the radical leftists who dress up as our mainstream media and bash him every minute of every day. I don't blame Trump for the Russia collusion hoax hit job or anything surrounding the economy wrecking COVID-19 nonsense. And I certainly can't blame him for an election that, at the very least, doesn't pass the smell test. None of this was or is his doing. All of it, including the responses to the faux pandemic, were thrust on him, and for one reason. It was all done to remove Trump from office. That, and to send a clear message to any other upstart that may follow and attempt to upset the deep state apple cart. What I will do is blame him for who he hired to either flush out the leftist criminal element and or defend him as rigorously as he has America and its people. I love the guy, not for who he is personally, but because he has unexpectedly become the most constitutional president maybe since Calvin Coolidge, even more so than Ronald Reagan. Which is why it is so bemusing and disheartening to see him potentially going out this way, and to know at least part of this is by his own hand, as it were. Trump bears sole responsibility for who he hires. Who in the hell was he listening to hire a man like William Barr as his Attorney General? I predicted early on that this guy was not going to be who he was billed as. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. No one, and I mean no one, not Jesus Christ himself, only half kidding, can spend decades in and around Washington, D.C. politics and not be corrupted by the pure evil that resides there. No one can withstand the pull of the deep state for that long without succumbing to it. This alone should preclude the hiring of probably most that have been. That's Barr, and that's Durham, and that's every other current or former government official that Trump has hired. Trump should have known better, but he still hired a bunch of made men and women and then expected him, like him, to look out for America's interests, not those of Washington insiders. There's simply no excuse for it. I don't personally have anything against Rudy, but he's always struck me as a bit of a thespian, rather than just the competent jurist he needs to be in the mold of a Mark Levin or Tom Fitton. Then there's his other team, which I guess is really not his team, Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood. Putting Powell aside, why in the hell would Trump allow Mr. Wood to be anywhere close to his defense? He's a deep state plant, a Democrat, one who's given money to and voted for Obama, to Stacey Abrams of all people, and many more Dems. Wood is not fighting for Trump or justice or the truth. He's undermining the whole process, urging Republican voters in Georgia not to vote in January. What the hell? A lot of this crap could have been avoided if Trump had just hired the right people from the start and stopped listening to his deep state advisors. Someday, some Republican will wise up, actually reach out and put together an advisory panel of true constitutionalists who can guide him or her to the right hires, and of course judges. And by doing so, maybe see some real, lasting change in that D.C. swamp. Might I suggest an all-star constitutional advisory panel? Dr. Larry Arnn, Mark Levin, Tom Fitton, Daniel Horowitz, Glenn Beck, Thomas Sowell, and Walter Williams. I'm sure there are many more, but that's a blue ribbon advisory panel with which you couldn't go wrong. Thank you for listening.